How's it going, everybody? I was getting another cup of coffee. Check it out. Boom. BBT coffee. Let me get this light turned up. And people ask me why I'm always can't see during the day. Here you go. BBT. BBT. Make sure you guys go give him a follow. All right. There we go. We need more people mining Ergo at ergo.getblog.io. Come on, boys. Get on board with this. I'll be doing a guide for you guys. The more people mining over there, the more potential for you to make 22% more mining profits than anywhere else that you can mine Ergo at. The reason for that is they have a partnership with Neta. We're going to be talking about it, of course. And it proves out to be true as long as they're finding blocks. Some of the problems that they're running into is that they're not finding enough blocks because they don't have as much hash rate compared to the rest of the network. Remember, they're the only pool that's allowed miners to vote on improvement proposals on the network. They're the only pool that's allowed individual miners to do that. Let's support them. They support us. And they give us a pretty good option as well for all the other goodness as far as making some money. So, welcome to the Crypto Mining Show. There we go. Your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run in the interwebs and Matthew in real life. And yes, I am in the interwebs. Today, we're going to be talking about an opinion piece. Sell the Ethereum merge. Do not hodl through it. That's funny because if you're staking Ethereum, you can't sell it anyways. Fed announces biggest interest rate hike in 28 years and Bitcoin gains. So a lot of people are asking me, why is Bitcoin going up? My assumption was, of course, that it had to do with the price of power. And then they were like, no, it's the rate hike. And then Bitcoin was like, it, and went back down. So it's an outdated article, but it was literally written like yesterday. So this is pretty fun stuff. We're also going to be talking about CleanSpark takes advantage of bear market to acquire mining rig contracts. That in the mining front news, we have a security notice for MetaMask. We have a security notice for AMD and Intel CPU users. And we have, of course, some tech news. We have a boost in performance on GPUs, up to 55% in OpenGL. Let's get into it right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. Welcome back, everybody. So first things first, AMD Radeon GPUs get a major boost up to 55% in OpenGL graphics performance with the soon-to-launch Windows 11 22H2 driver. Now, from the mining perspective, it's important to note that you probably won't see any performance increase here because it is not running off of the lower-level API for OpenGL, or at least any of the miners are. So this is really just a testament to what's happening in the GPU market, though, and it's important to pay attention to because the problem that AMD has always had is their driver issues as well as issues with just in general, of course, getting utilized by game developers with all their features and so on and so forth. So what this means is that we are starting to see a shift in the market to where Radeon's really catching up to GeForce and NVIDIA. And I think it's important to note so that we're kind of aware of how these markets are going to function, especially with new GPU launches. After giving a major performance boost in the DirectX 11 API, AMD seems to be gearing up to deliver a similar boost to OpenGL applications with the upcoming Windows 11 22H2 GPU driver aimed at Radeon Graphics Solutions. Last month, AMD released a driver which focused on improving DirectX 11 performance in a range of titles that utilize the API. AMD stated up to 30% performance gains for Radeon GPUs, and we saw similar results within independent tests. Now the company is planning to switch gears and focus on the OpenGL side of things. Both DirectX 11 and OpenGL are still very commonly used in various benchmark applications in certain legacy games, and users who want the best performance may look for competitor graphics cards if AMD can't deliver the same level of graphics performance in their favorite titles. As such, it looks like AMD has devised its plans to release a new driver in the Windows 11 22H2 build that will offer a significant boost in OpenGL performance. Guru 3D's forum member, the creator, managed to receive the update in Windows 11 and was able to confirm that it is indeed a new driver from the GPU-Z WDDM information tab. The user also managed to run a few performance benchmarks, which shows a 55% gain in Unengine Valley benchmark, which is now comparable to DirectX 11. In Unengine superposition, the Radeon GPUs will be getting a 34% performance boost, which is around 20% slower than DirectX 11, but not the massive 52% difference that was seen on previous drivers. In the Unengine benchmark, the drivers delivered the opposite results, with the new drivers witnessing a 26% reduction in GPU performance. As you can see here, you got benchmark 1.0, 1.0, and where does it list? I guess it doesn't really list the driver here, but you can see 66, 79. Okay, that's for Windows 8, right? So I guess they went back to Windows 8 's just what it's, okay. I think it's 6679 versus 6469 before the driver. In Unengine, you had a score, wow, look at that FPS difference, 106 frames per second to 183 frames per second on Unengine. What about superposition? Superposition from 15762 to 17642. While the performance boost is there, it looks like we'll see some sort of regression in a few OpenGL titles with the new Radeon GPU drivers. AMD may still need to optimize its drivers for really old benchmark applications and game titles, but this is a good start for AMD to refocus on OpenGL optimizations. Now, we've known that, of course, AMD and Radeon has been pretty good at Vulkan, which is basically just the, I guess, the predecessor, for lack of a better term, of OpenGL. And it's done pretty well in DirectX 12 as far as rasterization goes, and that is compared to, of course, NVIDIA. But one of the arguments that a lot of people get with NVIDIA versus Radeon is of course, the NVIDIA drivers just seem to work, right? It just works. It's like something that was used in a lot of marketing material for some time as well against Radeon, and that's because you do run into the most odd issues when you're utilizing a Radeon GPU on a day-to-day basis. It's gotten a lot better, of course, since the 5000 series, or definitely since Polaris, where it was just absolutely awful. Weird things like Premiere just not even showing the video while you're trying to edit, random artifacting in games without actual having any hardware failure going on, tons of random stuff like that. So AMD and Radeon have done a great job at catching up on that front, but as you can see, even in the last line here, they still need to probably optimize some of its drivers for the really old benchmark applications. I'm sure it'll get there, all that sort of thing, but it is going in the right direction. And I really do think Radeon for the 7000 series is going to give NVIDIA a pretty big kick in the pants, right? Because what we've seen, and especially on the mining front, it's very relevant, is that we're seeing the best performance per watt out of the 7000 series leaks that we've ever seen. While on the AMD Green Team side, we're just seeing a huge increase in power for a subsequent increase in the performance. And whenever this starts happening, this is when you start to see the flip start to happen in the market towards whatever product that is. An example would be, of course, Ryzen versus Intel, or the release of Ryzen from AMD versus Intel. And it got worse and worse as they got the chiplet designs and all that sort of stuff. And you saw that kind of flip happen with AMD and Intel. Now, they're still competing. Intel has plenty of money to redo their R&D. They added in those performance cores. Things are kind of really hot in that market. What we want to see, of course, is that same thing happening in the GPU market. And I think we're going to be lucky enough to see that. And I'm excited for it because at the end of the day, this channel started out as a tech channel, right? And I'm still interested in tech. It's not like that goes away. So I do cover that stuff, especially as it pertains to gaming performance. And if you're into gaming, you can follow me over on twitch.tv/blindrun. We've been playing the Cycle Frontier lately. You're welcome to hop in a few rounds of that as well. It's basically like Escape from Tarkov Light. It's very fun. But let's get into this next one. You guys need to be aware of this. AMD and Intel attacked by the Hertzbleed CPU vulnerability that unlocks cryptographic keys through boost clocks. So this one's really, really interesting, and I'm wondering if it just means we turn off boost clocks, right? But Intel and scientists from UT Austin, UIUC, and UW distributed papers today framing the Hertzbleed chip weakness that permits side-channel assaults to take secret AES cryptographic keys by noticing the CPU's boost frequency levels and power instruments. As per outside scientists and researchers, both Intel and AMD CPUs are under attack. However, AMD has not given a warning yet. The weakness doesn't influence all cryptographic code, yet some moderation strategies for affected frameworks accompany, at this point, vague execution punishments. Intel says it has found this weakness through interior security examinations, yet outside research groups later uncovered their discoveries to the organization. The presently composed revelation carries the issue into the public eye. Be that as it may, reasonable CPUs from different merchants are additionally influenced. A Hertzbleed-based assault takes information by taking advantage of an optional impact of a procedure on a system, and for this situation, watching the power signature of some random cryptographic workload. Likewise, with most system workloads, the signature left by a cryptographic workload changes because the processor's dynamic boost clock frequency changes during the processing. Now, I don't know that this is a way to get around it, but it sure seems like it. If you are a custom PC builder, or you are just like, you build your own PCs, you're familiar with overclocking and such, it may be reason to just go ahead and get into your BIOS and lock your CPU core and get rid of dynamic boost. I don't know that that solves it for sure, but it's kind of an interesting line of thought that I'm having during this. An assailant can shift that power data completely to timing information, permitting them to take cryptographic keys. Cryptographic executions previously solidified against power side channel assaults aren't helpless to the Hertzbleed weakness. The Hertzbleed CPU vulnerability is currently affecting both AMD and Intel processors. Interestingly, it only affects Zen 2 and Zen 3 architecture and is unknown if the same exploit will appear in upcoming Zen 4 processors. Interestingly to me, that means that Zen 1 is left out of this, which is quite interesting because of the way the boost worked with Zen 1, right? Which wasn't very widespread. This is kind of cool. Obviously, it's not good, but it's kind of cool, right? This is how this is functioning. Hertzbleed can take advantage from, be taken advantage of from any location. It doesn't need actual access. The concern of Hertzbleed is that even though it is currently affecting previous and current AMD and Intel processors, it could potentially affect cutting-edge CPUs. This concern is because it works by noticing the power calculations behind the dynamic voltage frequency scaling, or DVFS method, which is a standard found in present-day CPUs. Any processor with dynamic power and proper cooling management can be affected. So also you could just get rid of your cooling and run that thing into the dirt. That's a joke. Don't do that. Intel says this has provoked it to impart its discoveries to other chip makers so they can evaluate any expected effect. Intel says that it doesn't think this assault is pragmatic beyond a lab, since it takes hours to days to find and remove a cryptographic key. Furthermore, an assault like this would require high-tech and resolution monitoring capacities. Intel's current mitigation technique incorporates programming fixes for any code helpless to empower a power side channel assault. However, the organization isn't sending firmware fixes. AMD is likewise not giving a microcode fix. Nonetheless, some moderation procedures influence CPU performance. This impact changes by processor design and whether the fix can achieve it in the hardware, programming, or a blend of both. Hertzbleed has been applied to the Intel SA00698 ID and CVE 2022-24436 ID Intel and the AMD CVE 2022-23823. Depending on the situation, users can stop the assault by handicapping Intel's Turbo Boost or AMD's Precision Boost. Called it. I called it. I had a feeling you could do that. So you get rid of PBO or you turn off Turbo Boost. If you want the additional performance of the higher clocks, you basically go in and hard set your voltage and of course your overclock. Make sure that when you do that, you have the proper cooling to accommodate. This is something I will be doing on any PCs that hold any cryptographic information personally. So I'd recommend you do the same. Now, the likelihood of you being targeted by this when there's a ton of higher, higher level economic attacks that could be played out here is pretty low. But to protect yourself, this is one way to go ahead and do it, right? Get rid of Precision Boost, get rid of Turbo Boost, hard set your overclocks and your voltages, and that should take care of it. The Hertzbleed report comes amid a more extensive Intel release today that incorporates 3 security warnings spanning over 6 weaknesses, which the company has located through its interior examination. Intel has patched up its inward security examination mechanical assembly directly following the Spectre and Meltdown weaknesses, reinforcing its endeavors to find flaws in its chips before the security shortcomings are found in nature. The current warning incorporates the MMIO stale data advisory weakness recorded as Intel SA00615. This weakness requires firmware, hypervisor, and operating system updates to amend the component weakness thoroughly. So if you are in IT and you deal with virtualization, well, welcome to Hell Week, because I apologize, but you're going to be updating firmware and hypervisors and all that fun stuff again, just like you did with Meltdown and Spectre. And I was around doing that in the virtualization scene during Spectre and Meltdown. So don't worry. I know what you're going to go through. Apologies. I hope you have a good week. Hopefully you can watch this channel in the background while you're patching everything up. Intel has distributed a concise outline and specialized profound plunge. At last, the MMIO undefined access advisory covers a hypervisor weakness, Intel SA00645. Intel has posted directions for moderating this weakness. So there's the security update, and we have more processor flaws. If you are a home PC user, obviously your best bet here is going to be going ahead and locking down that core to a specific speed, whether that be like, depending on your processor, 4.5 to 5 gigahertz, depending somewhere around that range, and locking down that core voltage, turning off Turbo Boost, and then calling it a day. Now, you could just turn off Turbo Boost, but you're going to be giving up performance. So you probably want to overclock a little bit. That will be dependent, of course, on your cooling and all of that, because once you overclock and hard set that, your processor is going to run at that speed 24/7. It probably also means that you're going to be seeing a bigger, I would assume, a bigger performance hit on Intel side of things at least for the 12 series versus AMD side of things, because you aren't going to be able to really easily, what I've found is the overclocking for the performance, or the non-performance cores on the Intel 12 series can be a little tricky. So get some water there, boys. We have another security notice too. Extension disk encryption issues. Researchers from Halburn found a case where user keys, and this is from MetaMask, could be found unencrypted on disk in rare edge cases, which has been fixed for MetaMask extension version 10.11.3 and later. So check your version, make sure that you are updating it. But this article does bring up, or this blog post does bring up a couple points that I think get missed when we're talking about security in general. So I wanted to talk about them a little bit. Security researchers at Halburn have disclosed an instance where a secret recovery phrase used by web-based wallets like MetaMask, so that could be even your Nautilus wallets, a whole bunch of other ones, right? So pretty much all wallets, you need to be careful, all web-based wallets, extension wallets. The following does not impact MetaMask mobile users and impacts a small segment of MetaMask extension users, as well as users of other web browser extension wallets. We felt this violated the user expectations of our password lock feature and could therefore put some users at risk. We have since implemented mitigations for these issues, so these should not be problems for users of the MetaMask extension version 10.11.3 and later. If all of the following three conditions apply to you, you may be at risk. And you should read the following next steps. Your hard drive was unencrypted. This is a big one, guys. And it's really, really simple. So for the Linux users, don't worry. I assume you already know what to do as far as encrypting your drive, right? I'm not going to go through that process. There are a lot of people that are just on Windows that are participating in cryptocurrency that are new, that may not be aware of features that are available. And you may need to look it up for your particular system. It'll usually be dependent on like your motherboard and or your processor. And the reason I say that is like what you need to have is going to be a TPM module. In some cases, AMD has a version, I think it's like ATPM or something like that, of a TPM module built into their CPU. And it's really, really important that you make sure you encrypt your drive. And for Windows, it's as simple as right-clicking your drive within Explorer and saying turn on BitLocker. Typically, when you go to turn on BitLocker, it'll tell you if you have the necessary components to do so. If you do not, there's another option where you can set like a password. Me personally, I'm not going to go into exactly how I handle encryption, but there are some other options that are better. That you can do some research on. The reason I don't disclose my favorite encryption methods, etc., is because then that compromises my own personal security. So I'll tell you, do your own research and kind of Google around the web. There are a lot of different options that you can do, but at the very least, go ahead, right click your drive and turn on BitLocker. And once again, like depending on your motherboard, etc., it could be different as far as how you end up doing that process. But make sure that you get that enabled. You imported your secret recovery phrase into a MetaMask extension on a device that is in possession of someone you do not trust or your computer is compromised. Duh. Don't recover your seed phrase on somebody else's computer. Come on, guys. You use the show secret recovery phrase checkbox to view your secret recovery phrase on screen during an import process. This is rough too, because a lot of people do this, and I'm even guilty of this, where I've just like gone in and viewed the secret recovery phrase, copied it out, and then like, so I could get it into one of my encrypted USB drives or something like that. So that one's a little bit more difficult. Obviously, that's going to be if somebody has some sort of viewing capabilities to your desktop. Not so much somebody taking the key from somewhere else, but also if you've just copied your key somewhere on your drive and you don't have that encrypted, or you didn't put it on an encrypted drive, obviously the best bet is to write that down. It does show you the secret recovery phrase, though, when you're setting up the wallet as well. So it kind of like is something you can't really get around necessarily. All right. So this affects all desktop operating systems and browsers that we've tested. They tested on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux with Google Chrome, Chromium, and Firefox browsers. That pretty much covers every type of browser that's going to be out there because most other ones are based on Chromium. So you're talking about Microsoft Edge, Brave browser, all of them. All versions of the MetaMask extension prior to 10.11.3 on all browser versions. This does not affect MetaMask Mobile. The secret recovery phrase does get cleared eventually, but we cannot make guarantees about when at this time. This vulnerability is most likely to affect users who had a device compromised or stolen soon after importing their secret recovery phrase into MetaMask. If all of the above conditions apply to you, then your secret recovery phrase may be accessible to someone with access to the computer you imported your secret recovery phrase on, and you may want to consider migrating funds from those accounts to be safe. We have prepared a guide for migrating accounts funds here. It's pretty simple. You're just going to recover your seed phrase, I would assume. Use of any third-party migration tools must be used at your own risk. Do not do that. This vulnerability could be exploited either by a person with physical access to your machine or by malware. However, if your device is compromised by malware, there are already many other attacks we cannot protect against, like keyloggers, direct memory access, and program control. If your computer is not physically secure from people you do not trust, we recommend you enable full disk encryption on your system. Additionally, and we covered that earlier, additionally, you are not affected by this if your funds are managed by a hardware wallet. You can learn more about that here. Affected users should consider migrating the funds from the accounts generated by the secret recovery phrase to new accounts generated by a new secret recovery phrase. We set up a guide to help you do this if you need it, and assembled a few software options that can make it easier. The rest of this document will provide some additional details and suggestions about how to best keep your wallet safe. At a later date, we will disclose more specifics about the nature of the issue so that other software developers can avoid these issues themselves. But for now, we are first disclosing recommended user actions to minimize the risks of threat. How secure am I? As stated before, if a computer is compromised either outside of your physical control or has malicious software on it, you can't be sure of the security of any program running on it. This is a problem that has been acknowledged and discussed by the 1Password team, a popular password manager. Explaining the difficulties in solving it, Jeffrey Goldberg, a principal security architect at 1Password, stated, quote, "This is a well-known issue that's been publicly discussed many times before, but any plausible cure may be worse than the disease. If you're using a password manager, you're likely more secure than those who aren't, yet even password managers aren't immune to flaws." Conclusion. Ultimately, we've learned that our password encryption feature's security was partially undermined by browser behavior, since browsers themselves consider physical access attacks to be outside of their threat model. And our current wallet is built on top of the browser. It has proven labor intensive to reduce the size of this attack surface, and it may be impossible to fully eliminate it. Ultimately, it is likely that only full disk encryption can provide your computer strong safety against physical computer attacks. Is this something that you should have expected? It depends on whether you thought your secret recovery phrase could be recovered on disk or not. If you assumed your computer needed to be kept secure, you should be fine. If you believe the MetaMask password implied that no one with access to your computer was able to extract your accounts, this may be a surprise to you. At a high level, it should generally be expected for computers, browsers, etc. to store text inputs on some level, whether temporarily or permanently. However, due to the nature of how significant it is to keep your secret recovery phrase secure, this specific scenario needs attention brought to it so its users can act accordingly. Fortunately, it seems that the password is still providing some level of security. We've only found that the secret recovery phrase could be extracted under very specific circumstances, and we've been able to introduce new protections over the period that Halburn has waited to disclose. And we have a few more we plan to implement. We will continue to introduce additional security mechanisms that reduce the risk even more. This means it is still good practice to lock your wallet if you're not using it or passing your computer to someone else. Don't give your computer, look, There's two things people don't touch: my computer and my motorcycle. All right, you just don't let people use them. That's it. Anyone, you just don't let anyone use your computer or your motorcycle ever. That's my thoughts, but let me know. Please take the time to enable full disk encryption on your computer. We talked about that at the beginning. It's the only way to be sure that someone with physical access to your computer isn't able to extract all of its contents. We also recommend the usage of hardware wallets as an additional security measure. Clear your browser cache data. Our research shows this may help some users in some cases. And remember that it's your responsibility to keep your computer secure. No wallet or software can keep itself safe in the system it runs on if the system it runs on is compromised. Take the time to learn how to avoid installing a virus on your computer. And then there's some guides they left you there for different operating systems and keeping them secure. And then, of course, your conclusion. We'd like to express our thanks to the Halburn team for responsibly disclosing this and for all of their hard work helping to protect this space. You can see more of their work here. They've awarded Halburn 50,000 USD for this discovery. And if you have concerns, you can contact security@metamask.com. Also, MetaMask is hiring. Everybody else in this space is firing, and MetaMask is hiring. Not your keys, not your crypto, boys. Like to see it. If your computer is a lab computer, I sure as hell hope you're not installing MetaMask on it. Gabe. I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying. All right. CleanSpark takes advantage of bear market to acquire mining rig contracts. The miner also partnered with TMG Core to expand its immersion cooling Bitcoin mining infrastructure. CleanSpark is taking advantage of the bear market and falling prices for Bitcoin mining rigs by buying existing purchase contracts from other miners for 1800 Antminer S19 XP computers. The Las Vegas-based sustainable Bitcoin miner said in a statement that the machines will add over 252 petahashes per second of hash rate to CleanSpark's Bitcoin mining capacity once fully deployed. You know who's going to make it? CleanSpark's going to make it, boys. Oh, awesome. So the Bitcoin mining specific computers called ASICs will start arriving at CleanSpark's facility in August, and shipping will continue through the next 6 months. The miner currently has 25,000 of the latest generation Bitcoin miners with a hash rate of over 2.5 exahash a second. The miner took advantage of the recent market conditions where sell-off in Bitcoin prices has led to the decline in ASIC prices. A tough capital market and difficulty in securing power purchase agreements by miners have also caused an excess supply of ASICs, which cannot be plugged in to mine Bitcoins, contributing to the lower power prices of the mining rigs, or the lower prices of the mining rigs, not power prices. Due to lack of funding, miners have not been able to fulfill previous orders of mining rigs for which they have paid deposits. Quote, with our research that we have done, we found that a sample set of public miners still owe $1.9 billion this year for ASIC purchases that they've committed to, end quote, said Galaxy Digital's head of mining, Amanda Fabiano, during a panel discussion at Consensus 2022 in Austin, Texas. The current conditions have given CleanSpark and other miners an opportunity to buy mining rigs at lower prices for expanding their operations. Quote, we were able to secure the contract at an exceptional price because of our strategic relationships and the unique circumstances that current market conditions have created, end quote, said Zach Bradford. The contract was brokered by Cryptech, a U.S.-based supplier of cryptocurrency mining machines and longtime partner of the miner, according to the statement. CleanSpark didn't specify the prices for the contracts, but a source close to the matter said that it had paid less than the spot prices for the rigs. The prices for latest generation ASICs have traded around $60 per terahash, the lowest since July last year when China banned mining, according to Luxor Technologies' hash rate index data. The prices topped just over $100 a terahash in December, the data suggests. CleanSpark also announced a partnership with TMG Core, a developer of high-performance computing solutions, to expand its immersion-cooled infrastructure for Bitcoin mining. The deal includes 257 units of TMG Core's proprietary immersion-cooled tanks that are specifically designed to improve the performance of mining machines while sustainably decreasing their failure rates over long-term use, according to the statement. In liquid immersion cooling, which is an alternative to traditional air cooling systems, mining machines are fully immersed into a synthetic hydrocarbon compound liquid that has no electrical conductivity and is fully biodegradable. The specialized liquid can reduce heat, power consumption, and noise stemming from the computers, as well as prolong the lifespan of the machines, allowing miners to maximize profit. Each tank fits 28 Antminer S19j Pro mining machines, and the units will be deployed in batches at CleanSpark's College Park, Georgia property and other locations. The partnership also provides CleanSpark with 2 megawatts of co-location capacity at TMG Core's immersion-cooled mining facility in Plano, Texas. In December, CleanSpark bought 20 megawatt immersion cooling infrastructure for its Norcross, Georgia Bitcoin mining facility. 8 of the data center's 20 megawatt capacity are already fully operational, while the remaining 12 megawatts are expected later this year, according to Wednesday's statement. Remember when I said opportunity is now, and obviously if you have the capital, it's especially now. It looks like CleanSpark is going to be moving in the proper direction and setting themselves up for, of course, the next cycle, which we will see the halving of Bitcoin kind of first quarter 2024, and probably 6 months after that or so, you would start to see the rise in the price of Bitcoin again. Speaking of which, I guess I should bring that up because a lot of people keep asking me, like, is this the bottom for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? If we were looking at traditional super cycles and the way they function, 1100 would be the bottom for Ethereum, 21,000 would be the bottom for Bitcoin. We're in a very unique situation with the DeFi contagion, though, which could drive Ethereum down further, which would then affect the rest of the market because there's a ton of stuff. Everything is DeFi is built onto Ethereum, so it can affect even Bitcoin to a certain extent. But I do feel like I had doubted for a while if we were going to see traditional super cycle behavior. And then it did finally come to fruition. Kind of timing these things is still going to be difficult. Do we go lower? It's always possible, but I do feel like, from my perspective and not financial advice, this is the bottom. This is around where we sit until 2024. So buckle in for another year at least, or two years, at least, before we start seeing anything really crazy happening. Of course, there is crazy stuff happening that could affect this, because we talk about Bitcoin and its ability to be a hedge against inflation. However, that has not come to fruition necessarily at this point, as it follows traditional markets. But due to a big interest rate hike, the biggest in 28 years, Bitcoin did gain briefly and then drop back down today. The labor market is extremely tight and inflation is much too high, said Chair Jerome Powell. And that's kind of like a no Sherlock, right? But okay, let's get into it. The U.S. Federal Reserve on Wednesday raised interest rates by 75 basis points, or 0.75 percentage point. It is the biggest rate hike in 28 years, part of an ongoing effort to bring down soaring inflation, and has roiled the economy and markets from stocks and bonds to cryptocurrencies. The U.S. Central Bank also announced it would continue reducing the size of its balance sheet at the rate announced in May, according to a statement by the Federal Open Market Committee, which sets the Fed's monetary policy. The Fed funds rate, the range at which commercial banks can borrow and lend their excess reserves to each other overnight, will rise to a range of 1.5 to 1.75%, according to the Fed. Bond traders are pricing in a range of 3.25% to 3.5% by the end of year, implying an unusually rapid and harsh pace of monetary tightening, according to Goldman Sachs. Quote, the current picture is plain to see, end quote, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said Wednesday at a press conference after the decision was announced. The labor market is extremely tight and inflation is much too high. The last time the Fed raised its benchmark by 0.75 percentage points was in 1994. Powell said the U.S. Central Bank will not declare victory until officials see compelling evidence that inflation is coming down. Given that May's consumer price index measuring inflation came in hotter than expected, dude, it's so frustrating that like a majority of media is saying, and like our government is telling us like this isn't expected, when like if you just look at it objectively, like you can't have these, I'm sorry, you can't have these lockdowns and then have supply chain disruption and then drain your oil reserves and shut down pipelines and then not expect this to happen. I just don't understand why everyone wants to say this isn't expected when it was completely expected. We've been talking about this for a while. I expected it, and I'm just a dummy on the internet. Markets started reacting to possibility of faster rate hike in the days leading up to this week's Fed meeting. The closed door meeting started on Tuesday and culminated with the statement on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Quote, markets loathe uncertainty and unpredictability, end quote, said Josh Alzewick, something like that, head of research at Valkyrie. A decrease in downward volatility will only likely be achieved with a pause or reversal of the current Fed policy direction. Bitcoin was changing hands at around $21,444 about an hour after the meeting, up from $21,076. I would say that's within margin of error, just personally, in the way Bitcoin is pretty volatile from like hour to hour is ridiculous. So I don't see that as any kind of sign that you saw a big increase in the price of Bitcoin compared to as a result of this, right? That's not what I'm seeing here. Most analysts had already priced in the hike in the days leading up to the meeting. Overall economic activity appears to have picked up after edging down in the first quarter, the Fed said in a Wednesday statement. Job gains have been robust in recent months and the unemployment rate has remained low. A lot of that's due to obviously like the loosening of the lockdowns, businesses opening back up, and the ability for people to actually go out and get a job. So it makes sense that you would have that rate basically go down. Inflation remains elevated, reflecting supply and demand imbalances related to the lockdowns, higher energy prices, and broader price pressures. I'm not going to refer to it as the pandemic. I refer to it as lockdowns because that's what we're talking about when we're talking economically, okay? During his press conference in May, Powell had ruled out the possibility of a 75 basis point hike, saying that it is not something that the committee is actively considering. Instead, central bankers had hinted at 250 basis point hikes in June and July. But the situation changed after the last consumer price index report showed an acceleration in inflation to 8.6% rather than a slowdown as expected. I don't know why they keep saying a slowdown was expected because it wasn't. I just don't think it was. That's like bugging me. I'm sorry. I'm going to harp on it. Powell had mentioned at his last conference that if the Fed didn't see inflation pressures abating and coming down, the central bank would consider moving more aggressively. Powell said Wednesday that last week's inflation surprise warranted strong action at this meeting, rather than waiting another 6 weeks for the next gathering. We decided we needed to go ahead, and so we did, Powell said. We came to the view that we'd like to do a little more front-end loading on that. In addition to the statement, the Fed published revised quarterly economic projections, or a dot plot, a pictorial representation of Fed officials' projections for the central bank's key short-term interest rates. Members expect the funds rate to go up to 3.4% in 2022 and 3.8% in 2023. Bitcoin's about to blow the cap off of this boys, because what you're going to see, which is going to be insane, especially if it continues to follow traditional markets, is we're going to see a lightening up of the inflation rates in 2024. Right? Because this is lasting through 2023, best I can tell. You're going to see the halving of Bitcoin happen at the same time, and you're going to see a new presidential election. All three of those things in 2024 means that like we're going to see Bitcoin really come to life around 2025, and it's going to be absolute insanity. So if you're sitting here and you're really like focused on the moment and focused just on now and you're stressed out, sit back and relax, boys, because you're about to see the culmination of all of these things coming together. and just taking off. I'm not saying that like Bitcoin is necessarily going to go to the moon. I do think also other things, when this comes to the realization by the Fed, is going to result in a ton of regulation because they can't let this get out of control. But it is, like I said, to a certain extent inevitable. And it's going to be absolutely insane. I'm so excited for 2024 and 2025 because like you just see everything here lining up, right? For all of that to get... We're going to relieve the pressure is going to get relieved on the economy more than likely. You're going to see, like I said, the halving of Bitcoin, and you're going to see a new presidential election in the US. And even if you're not in the US, that is relevant because, frankly, the US dollar does control the international economy to a certain extent. So keep that in mind. All of this does just point to absolute insanity in 2024, but you're going to have to live through some tough times. We all going to make it, but those who dip out early aren't, right? So just sit back, relax, and try to figure out how to pay your bills. I realize, like, even me, I'm having a ton of trouble trying to figure that out. I get it. It's tough out there, but there is good news around the corner. That being said, maybe not sell your Bitcoin, but definitely sell your Ethereum soon, according to this opinion piece on CoinDesk. Sell the Ethereum merge. Many market participants think the highly anticipated Ethereum merge will be bullish for ETH. The opposite is more likely. I don't usually make short-term prognostications about the asset prices, but occasionally financial markets lob a fat pitch. Well-followed trader of digital assets such as Arthur Hayes, Mark Cuban, and Travis Kling have made very public statements here about how bullish the upcoming Ethereum merge will be for the price of ETH. I think the opposite is more likely. Thank you, CoinDesk. I like this opinion. This lines up with my perspective. If you're reading this article, you've probably heard of Ethereum merge. It might be the best telegraphed technical event in modern history of digital assets since the invention of Bitcoin. It's so anticipated because of three reasons. One, Ether is the second largest digital asset as measured by network value. Two, it is a major change to the network with significant attendant execution risks. And three, it has been delayed so many times that market participants had years to analyze it. People tend to get excited about the prospects of these sorts of widely anticipated developments and think they will usher in price gains, but such occurrences tend to be seldom news events. Prior events like this include the launch of Bitcoin futures on regulated U.S. exchanges and the approval of the first Bitcoin futures ETF. Besides the fact that these events marked long-term peaks in the dollar price of Bitcoin and the prices of digital assets in general, they were widely anticipated. But these watershed events in the development of Bitcoin market also represented changes in the structure of the market for the asset they represented. In the case of Bitcoin futures and Bitcoin future ETFs, a new tool was introduced for selling Bitcoin without purchasing the underlying spot asset. The Ethereum merge represents a similar dynamic because it changes the structure of the markets for digital assets. Investors and speculators in digital assets have a number of consensus mechanisms from which to choose, but the largest by far in terms of market capitalization, and in my opinion, he says the most secure. Who wrote this, boys? I'm liking this. Mr. Eddie Edstrom. We gotta go subscribe to his Substack over here once he gets kicked off of CoinDesk or something. Advocating for proof of work over here on CoinDesk. What are you doing? What are you doing? Today, proof of work secures perhaps 3/4 of the market capitalization or network value of all digital assets in existence. But if Ethereum switches to proof of stake, then roughly 1/5 of the total network value of proof of work digital assets will change to proof of stake digital assets. Don't get me wrong, BTC and Ether, Ethereum's native token, are very different beasts. To me, ETH is more of a substitute for Bitcoin than Meta stock is to a substitute for gold. They are both assets, but they are very different. However, it would be naive to assume that there isn't a large contingent of participants in the market for digital assets who see some similarities between Bitcoin and Ethereum that effectively make them partial substitutes in the portfolios of those investors and speculators. But Ether changing to proof of stake will reduce ETH similarity to and substantially for Bitcoin, while simultaneously increasing its similarity to and substantially for various major proof of stake assets such as Cardano, Solana, Tron, Avalanche, Algorand, and others. So the merge will amount to a decrease in total supply of proof of work assets and an increase in supply of proof of stake assets. All else equal, a reduction in supply for proof of work assets implies an increase in the price of the remaining proof of work assets. Are you ready to mine? Yeah. Primarily Bitcoin. And an increase in the supply of proof of stake assets implies a decrease in the price of proof of stake assets. Based on current capitalization, the biggest proof of stake asset will be Ether. The merge has two possible outcomes. Either it doesn't work. Either it doesn't work. Either it works or it doesn't work. If the merge doesn't work, that seems unlikely to be good for the price of Ether. But if it does work, that also seems unlikely to be good for the price of Ether. Does he just watch the channel? Hey, yo, bro, do you just watch the channel and just copy what we talk about? Is that either it's going to be bad for the price of Ether or it's going to be bad for the price of Ether. And he's not wrong, but we've been saying that for a while. Because proof of stake based ETH will now directly compete for investor speculator market share against the panoply of other major proof of stake based digital assets. I have no idea whether the dollar price of Ether will go up or down between now and when the merge happens, and I have no idea whether the merge will happen at all, considering that it's been delayed for so many years. But if I read the news one day and it says the merge has happened, I expect the news will be sellable. And I think that that is a valid point. The hard part is that the merge happens in a bear market or a crypto winter, right? Which means it's going to be really hard for that price to go up necessarily. Other things that really kind of like hinder this, of course, is going to be the problem that we're having with staking and the inability to withdraw your stake. So if you've staked and you think you're going to hit the merge and you're going to be able to withdraw, that's not the case. And I'm sorry you staked on Beacon Chain, but kind of we've been telling you, bro. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. If you were listening, you should know that you shouldn't have been staking your Ethereum at this point. And that's really all I have to say about it, you know? It's just one of those things. As far as like the article there, like I said, these are things that we've been talking about for a while. There are key issues with Ethereum in general that outweigh, of course, the move to the merge. And I have worries about it. Now, yesterday I switched my farm all over to Ergo, and it's not paying off because Ergo really hasn't found any blocks today. We're at 1,173 netta for the past 24 hours. It's not great. We were doing a lot more, and I'm not sure exactly how everything is functioning here. I'm going to test it out a little bit more with the total farm. When we only had 3 gigahash on, we were doing quite a bit, right? We were doing 28 bucks a day, which was outpacing the equivalent amount of hash rate or power that was on Ethereum by about $4 a day. Then I moved the entire farm over, and we don't find any blocks. So like if we go to pool stats and we go to blocks, you can see here, obviously this was a big day, but we are down to only finding 7 blocks today. So here's the thing. We have one more miner connected. I think there's like 200 miners connected to this pool. Netta pays out 22% extra of the ERG. So if you mine 1 ERG, you get 1.22 ERG worth of Netta. They're doing this to essentially fill up. We've talked about this on the show. We talked about it on my live stream last night, but they're doing this to fill up their liquidity for a Netta BTC. It's a pretty interesting project. The only way to mine it right now is directly through a smart pool on GetBlock. GetBlock first of all, so ANETA, the important notes here that you need to pay attention to. ANETA is the first tokenized asset that is focusing on miners, and that is amazing. So that just in and of itself is bad A, right? In addition to that, GetBlock's the only pool that has enabled miners to vote directly on changes to the network. We need to get behind projects like this. And right now, while the difficulty is high on Ethereum, and I'm not necessarily making a ton of money on Ethereum, I'm going to give all my hash power and all my support over here to ANETA and to GetBlock. I would encourage you, if you can afford to do that, to go ahead and join me. The thing is, if the hash rate goes up on specifically GetBlock, then they will begin to find more blocks. And in general, when they are finding as many blocks in proportion to larger pools like Nano Pool or Hero Miners or 2 miners, they pay out more, 22% more. So the more miners are on there, the more blocks will be found and the more money everybody will make. That is basically exactly how this functions. But I realize, obviously, like we always talk about, mine the most profitable for you. You can trade for whatever you believe in and you can move from there. I would just highly encourage you at this point so we could get this kind of kick-started and see exactly kind of more of a steady pace of how much this pool will actually pay out. It's pretty awesome right now, though. I think that it's a bad-ass project, so I encourage you to go over there. Let's go ahead and talk about what to mine and its profitability. We're going to go ahead and pop in and fix the ZIL hash. We're going to fix the Kapow. We're going to fix the ProgPow, and we're going to fix the Firo proof of work. But remember, next week they're changing and taking 25% of the mining rewards, so don't pay attention to Firo too much. Even though it's in second place right now, don't pay attention to Firo too much. Cero's at $2.09 a day revenue, 91 cents a day after power. Firo's at $2.01 a day in revenue and 90 cents a day after power. Ravencoin is $1.86 a day in revenue and 67 cents a day after power. Ethereum is $1.77 a day in revenue and 61 cents a day after power. Ooh. Conflux at $1.57 a day in revenue and 38 cents a day after power. You got ZEL hash, nice hash version, $1.56 a day in revenue, 52 cents a day after power. If you mine Flux directly, that's only 39 cents a day after power. Ergo is $1.50 a day in revenue and 57 cents a day after power. This is at 15 cents a kilowatt hour, so that makes more sense. Let me fix this real quick for you guys. Oh, I was like, why does this seem even worse? So that's much better. Ethereum's at $1 a day after power, okay? Ergo at 88 cents a day after power, and Flux at 7 cents a day after power. Ravencoin at $1.08 a day after power. Cero $1.30, and Firo $1.28 after power, at least for the next week. And then they have those new changes coming onto the network. Let's take a look at all of this funness. I was looking at Ergo earlier. Nano Pool's in first with 35%. GetBlock is coming up. And so good job, everybody that's realizing what GetBlock is doing and moving your hash rate over to there. I'd love to see them above a terahash. That's what I'd like to see. So if you guys want to work with me on getting them above a terahash, I think that would be extremely beneficial. Get it closer to that 2 miner solo at least. And get those extra rewards for Neta. All right. That's how I think we should perform this, because they are giving us, Ergo and Neta are giving, and GetBlock as a combination, right? As a combination, are giving the GPU miners the best opportunity possible. They're giving us the most and quickest development from the Ergo standpoint, where they have caught up to Ethereum on actual features within less than a year, which is absolutely insane. GetBlock has given us direct voting along with smart pools, and ANETA has given us the first tokenized asset that is giving additional rewards and airdropping to miners, not airdropping to other people, right? Not airdropping to holders, stakers, or anything like that. It's extremely important to support the projects that support the GPU miners. Okay, I just want to make that clear. And if we put that holy trinity together, Just go for it. Let's take a look at Bitcoin hash rate. We know that we have one miner at least going to increase hash rate, but right now we are just seeing a constant dip in the hash rate of Bitcoin. Oh Lord, it's so awesome that we actually do see the exact same thing happening this super cycle. This is just affirmation that we are going to see the exact same thing happen, and that's good news. That means that we get a 300%, at least a 300% increase in the price of Bitcoin compared to the previous all-time high in a couple years. That means 2025, and this is not financial advice, but this does mean 2025, we are looking at 200,000 to $250,000 Bitcoin, somewhere around there. It's like, what, 69 times 3 or whatever, however that works out, just in general, right around there. That means that we are seeing everything play out exactly like we've seen it before, even with the kind of, it's insane that it is still maintaining almost the exact same super cycle, regardless of what's happening in the economy, which tells me that maybe it is a hedge against inflation. Maybe it is, because it really is doing exactly what it always does. It's not really deviating from that. It just seems to have lined up conveniently with all these outside influences kind of taking a dive as well. That's all it's really done. So it's good news. We're seeing the hash rate come down with the price of Bitcoin. Finally, it's not going up. We're seeing the difficulty of Bitcoin come down. We are seeing exactly what we would expect to see. And while it's not good, it's, like I said, just kind of, it's an affirmation that we're still kind of experiencing the same things. Ethereum is up a little bit today from 970 terahash a second to 989 terahash a second. As far as Ethereum Classic, we're at 23 terahash a second, and that is still right around where it was yesterday. Let's take a look at Flux. And Flux is back up from 1.2 to 1.3 mega solutions a second yesterday to 1.5 mega solutions a second today. Miners are going back onto Flux. That's good to see. Let's take a look at Ravencoin. And Ravencoin is up to 2.48 terahash a second, so also up a little bit today over yesterday. And it has a decrease in difficulty going on right now too. I think the spike today was because obviously, like, it was generating more revenue than Ethereum, so it makes sense. Alrighty. Mining pool profits for the last 90 days, Ethermine in first, F2 pool in second, Crazy pool in third. Last 60 days, Ethermine in first, Crazy pool in second, F2 pool in third. Last 30 days, Crazy pool in first, Ethermine in second, ZET in third. Last 21 days, ZET in first, Ethermine in second, Crazy pool in third. Last 14 days, Ethermine in first, Crazy pool in second, ZET in third. Last 7 days, Ethermine in first, Crazy pool in second, ZET in third. Last 3 days, Crux pool in first, Ethermine in second, 2 miners in third. And last day, Crux pool in first, Crazy pool in second, and ZET in third. These are not all the pools, and this is not always completely accurate, but it is a good indicator of what is happening as far as which pools are finding more blocks, etc. All right, ASIC miner profitability. We have the KD5 down to $13 from the $19. We have the KD6 down to $20. And that's a hard press to make you want to go purchase one for $60,000. Of course, I think those prices have come down. We'll check that in a second. If we scroll down to the S19 Pro, we're at $3.72 a day after on mining rig rentals. Really, really bad profitability for Bitcoin miners. Of course, now's the time to accumulate, so it makes sense. Let's go ahead and check out BT Miners and see if we've had any good sales going on. Boom, boom, bam. You can check out the link down in the description below, of course. And they are a sponsor of the channel, just to be clear. I'm sure you guys have seen the ad rolls for them. The S19 Pros are down to $6,000. That's not too shabby. It's 110 terahash a second. It's still a pretty long payoff time. They have dropped the V1 Mini Classic or Ethereum Classic Miner to 1350 from 1700. What else have they dropped significantly? I mean, nothing else significant in my eyes necessarily. Jazz miners around 4,500. Litecoin Doge miners still around up there. KD box is down to 2,300. And the KD box Pro is at 1,500. I do not know. This is what starts happening in the market right now. They probably made a purchase, and this is the purchase price they made it at, was the 2,300, unfortunately for them. The 2022 KD box is at 1,500 USD. So there you go. The best deal is the S19 Pro, 110 terahash. If we multiply that times, let's go ahead and look at this. What should we be paying for an S19 Pro? 60 times 110, calculator. 60 times 110 equals $6,600. So they are actually under the going price right now. So that is a pretty good deal, technically. Right? That's under the going price of what these big farms are paying in general. So if we did 6,000 divided by 110, you're paying $54.50 per terahash at BT miners. So good on them. They got that price in line right now as far as your Bitcoin miners go. Let's get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are never required. Always appreciated. First to be answered because it highlights the message. Super stickers boost the algorithm the most, even the 99-cent ones. And of course, tagging at Son of a Tech will highlight my name in orange, making it easier for me to pick out the question. So I will not answer questions unless they have the at Son of a Tech at the beginning of it. We also have been pushing the locals, which I would highly encourage you guys to check out. I am posting members only posts over there, and we have a giveaway right now for an ETC MAYC ape that you can go ahead and enter for a chance to win if you are a locals member. If you're already a member on YouTube, check out the membership tab or the community tab for a members only post on YouTube for a promo code to join locals for free for the first month. We're also running a promotion on locals for 12 months for $50. So it's 2 months free basically if you purchase a year up front. It is the best way to direct support the channel because it's my own Stripe account, and I have confirmed that I get 100% of the revenue from locals. This is actually something extremely unique in the fact that everything else takes a cut. Super chats take a cut on YouTube. Biddies on Twitch take a cut. Memberships take a cut on YouTube. This is the only place where, like, if you go support, all the money's going to me, and that'll be used obviously to support the channel and my family through the bear market. And that's pretty much it. So let's get into questions and answers. Oh, and let me pull this up. I had one, first of all, super chat at the beginning for $5. I copied out the question. I forgot who it came from. I said, at Son of a Tech, thank you for what you do. Thank you for watching. He says, reorganize rigs to balance power for efficiency. Switch to a 220 PDU from 110. That's the way to go. Once again, right now, what do? You optimize your power, you decrease your costs, and you increase the amount of hash rate on the network. That's the only thing you can do. Keep the watts low, keep the hash rate high. This is all we can do at this point, right? Hugo Down, thanks for the $5 super chat, says, have you tried using Nano Miner for Ergo ZIL mining capability? It's worth a look. I have not yet. I will definitely consider it, though. I think it's a pretty good idea. The only problem with doing the dual mining on pools that are outside of easel.me is you lose in payout methods that are like PPLNS, right? And you do have that problem. So it would be interesting. I'm going to run this for a while, then we'll run that, and then we'll kind of compare it, right? Miller Mining Company says, ask Son of a Tech, are you mining Ergo solo? No, I am mining Ergo through a smart pool on GetBlock and actually getting paid out in Neta. So for every 1 Ergo I mine, I get paid out 1.22 Ergo worth of neta. And that means that I increase my Ergo profitability by 22% over the calculators. And this is the best way to go that I have found. Aggregator Visual says, Ask Tech, are you able to mine it directly through Guap Swap? Or you are able to. Yes, but you don't get that 22%. 22%, sir. At least the best I can tell. Believe that's enabled through the pool. They worked with GetBlock and the smart pool on that. Panzer, thanks for the 99-cent super sticker. Ted Park, thanks for the 99-cent super sticker. We got a few more down here. Max Barbell, thanks for the $5 super sticker. Alex Fletcher, thanks for the €2.49 super sticker. Fist bump. There you go. Patel says, has a $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. Says, thank you for the analysis. Analysis. Sorry. You're a good man. If you're coming to India, I want to meet you and the family. I don't think that I would ever make it there. Also, Hindi would be amazing. I would need somebody that spoke Hindi to help me out with that. I like what like Mr. Beast is doing, but you have to have so much money to do that where you hire people to dub over all of your videos. The live chat, obviously we couldn't do that with, but we could create content specifically for that. That would be pretty cool. Killyfish says, Ask Tech, 2 miners just put up the reward on Firo has halved. So, okay. So apparently that has already gone through. That happened quickly. Let me go ahead and check and grab that news for you guys. 2 miners. All right. So yeah, we have that. It has gone through. It has met that. So breaking news. Thanks for the update. Firo halving has just happened. The block reward is reduced from 6.25 Firo to 1. Whoa. What the fuck? That's not a halving, bro. That's a lot. Is that accurate? Yeah. Block rewards down to 1.5 Firo. Firo is pointless to mine. If you have your rigs on Firo, pull them off right now. The block time has reduced from 5 minutes to 2.5 minutes. Oh, okay. So that's the halving. Okay. Whew. All right. So as opposed to 6.25 Firo every 5 minutes, you get 1.56 every 2.5 minutes. It's still more than it's still a little less than half, right? Because I guess it's 1.56 times 2, 3.14 or 3.12. That's half. That's exactly half. That means that the miners will get 2 times less rewards than they get now. Please pay attention. There you go, boys. Firo's done. It's kind of a disappointment for, of course, the AMD cards, but AMD cards have other options too still. Ravencoin and Ergo, etc. Rock to Roar says, what happened to Rocket Chat? Nothing. I'm still using it right now. It's working. Yep, it's working. Chat there every day. Vinity Body says, Ask Tech, why did the Ravencoin block time get reduced that much? Ravencoin block time. I don't know. I'd have to look into that one. AAG says, can you further explain the GitHub Ergo mining thing and smart pools? I'm going to be making a video on it so you guys get up to date as far as all that goes. I was working on the video yesterday. It just takes time to aggregate all the information and then make sure that it is explained in a way that is easy to understand. I've actually been talking about it all week, on the channel. And I find that that's helping me do is figure out how to explain it to where people understand, because it seems to be confusing to a lot of people. But it's essentially all you're doing is you're mining Ergo, you're getting paid out in the token, And because that token is taking your Ergo to add liquidity to that network, they are paying you out an additional amount for taking that Ergo from you. So that 80% they're taking, they're locking it up. And that is adding liquidity to the decentralized pool. And then you are getting paid out 1.22 as a part of their airdrop. And as opposed to their airdrop going to traditional holders or whatever for ANETA BTC, the airdrop is going to miners. And that is what's happening. Ricardo says, Ask Tech, one question, locals will give access to the private rocket chat. Yes, thanks for the reminder. I'm going to make that post today on the members only for locals. That will include the login, or the private registration URL for rocket chat. Vinit says, Ask Tech, why did the Raven block times get reduced that much? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with it. I can't answer that question because I'm not educated on it right now. Matt Plumy says, at Semitech, do you have a video on setup mining Ergo? That's a good question. I don't think I actually do. I think I have an old one, but we're going to do a new one because we need to do a new one. That's essentially what we need to do. That's what I'm working on, you know? I would say that if I did have an old one, it's irrelevant at this point because we need to talk about gap lock. We need to talk about swapping. We need to talk about quite a few different little things that are nuanced and added details that are going to help you out. Vidit says, Ask Tech, why did the Raven... Dude, bro, come on. No more spamming. All right, we're just going to go ahead and just say, go ahead and please do not spam that anymore or I'm going to do a timeout. Ranja Patel, Ranja Kar, did I say that right? Thank you for the reply, but still understanding a little. I'm sorry. I'll try to, like I said, I try to explain it, but I guess people don't. I think there are apparently a lot of new miners that haven't educated themselves on DeFi enough. I have a lot of DeFi videos. If you understand DeFi from the Uniswap perspective, which you can go watch my videos on that, then you will understand how that translates over to Ergo, and then you'll understand a little bit more about what Neta is and all of that. Retro Mike says, Ask Tech, the Firo fork was 3 hours ago. Thank you, good sir. We have a $20 super chat from Pohig Mining says, hit a couple Ethereum Classic solo blocks this morning. Congratulations. Here's some of it to help keep the lights on. Oos. Thank you, good sir. Daniel Ring says, Ask Tech, are you going to merge Rocket Chat into locals if it works out? Or do you see a potential for both? Yeah, so that's a good question. I think I'll definitely always keep the TeamSpeak. I am thinking about turning down Rocket Chat just because Locals has the app. So it covers that. It has live chat. It has a news feed. It has video support. I think it has more support right now. That being said, when TeamSpeak 5 launches, that's my ultimate goal, is to have a TeamSpeak 5 server. Now, the reason I would turn down Rocket Chat is that it's costing about $60 a month right now, too, just for the server. But I also like to keep everything there, so I don't know that I'll turn it down at this point. If anything, I would back it up to an on-prem server and have it there for in case we did move over and try to use locals permanently, that we would be able to like fall back to that. But seeing that locals is pretty much just a chat app and we can do that within locals. Once people get familiar with it, we'll talk to the community, specifically you as the members, and figure out where we want to go from there. Right now, the locals primarily is a way for you to help support the channel directly without a take or a portion of it going to somebody else. That's it, really. Gunnick says, Ask Tech, can what happened to Luna happen to ETH through staked ETH? Not necessarily. To a certain extent, yes, but we're not talking about a depegging of a dollar or of a stable coin. So the thing is like what happens between state ST ETH and Ethereum will impact, that'll be a DeFi contagion, right? That will be like a depegging of pretty much all the wrapped assets on Ethereum. Does it go to like zero like Luna? Not necessarily, right? But we could even check out right now where we're at. We did forget to check that out today. So let's go ahead and see If we go to coin market cap, Ethereum's at $1,113. And what's ST ETH at? I think ST ETH itself will crash, right? Or can crash out, right? Yeah, so it's depegged still. It's down 0.13% again against Ethereum. It's 1,054.33, so it's not maintaining peg. Van Theros, and I got to go after this one, says, thank you, sir, for everything you do for the community. 2.8 gigahash farm right now that has now cost me $0. Time to sit through the bear market and expand when possible. This is not financial advice. There you go, good sir. Daniel Kemper says, hey man, fellow miner here. I would like to throw some ETH hash rate to support your channel. I really love your content and keep me going. Let me know. You really keep me going. Let me know. I'm not mining Ethereum right now, Mr. Kemper, but if you want to, I have my Ergo address down below. You can point that at GetBlock, and I will take the additional hash rate for sure as a donation. I'd appreciate it quite a bit. AAG says, Ask Tech, did you hear about the report of the banking system using 56 more times energy than Bitcoin? We've talked about that stuff a lot. Like that's been a thing since the beginning of all these arguments environmentally. Angel says, Ask Tech, do you think ETH will go below $1,000? So there's specifically a situation in which staked ETH completely decouples, it crashes, and the DeFi contagion just basically destroys the, Ethereum decentralized finance ecosystem, and trust is lost in Ethereum, and Ethereum goes away completely. That is a possibility, not highly likely, but there is a possibility that Ethereum goes below. That being said, if we're looking at traditional super cycle and we expect ETH to maintain, then we are at the bottom already for Ethereum in particular. We're at the bottom already for Bitcoin. At least like if we're looking at previous cycles. So like I've been saying this since 2019 or 2020, right? I've been saying this since 2020, the exact same predictions. I said that the bear market would hit 21K Bitcoin and Ethereum. Given traditional super cycle pattern, we would hit Ethereum 1100 in the bear market, and then we'll triple from there in 2025. So triple from the previous all-time high in 2025, which would be, around 15,000 for Ethereum if it doesn't die to proof of stake, which is a valid point. And we discussed that today on the opinion of you should sell Ethereum at the merge, right? So there are outside factors, and specifically with Ethereum, there are very dangerous things going on with proof of stake, and it's all surrounding, like we've gone into detail pretty much all week. If you haven't watched this week's episodes, catch the clips on Ethereum and the depegging of staked Ethereum. You need to pay attention to that. It's still depegged right now. And that depegging, a lot of people say wouldn't affect, of course, Ethereum. But at the end of the day, that perception of staked Ethereum, wrapped staked Ethereum, which I understand is a confusing concept because even talking about just a neta has been confusing as a token for y'all. Study up on DeFi and understand how it functions so you understand why this is a big deal. If that depegs all the way and public perception is lost and DeFi contagion goes across the board and wrapped Bitcoin depegs again and gets worse, you're going to end up in a pretty poor position for Ethereum from a public perception standpoint. You're not able to de-stake or unstake your staked Ethereum, even post-merge. I think when that comes to the realization of a lot of these people, which it has started to, which is why you have these big sell-offs from companies like Three Arrows that we talked about yesterday, it just compounds, right? And it gets worse. Thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, notification bell down below so that YouTube and the algorithm knows you enjoy my content. Check out the locals page. There is still an option for you to just follow. You won't get access to the membership posts, but you will get access to all the rest of the posts, the public posts. The membership post will be focused around how I am making different moves on basically within my mining farm to make it survive before we talk about it on the YouTube channel. So you get a little bit of an inside peek before I make those moves. We've been talking about those things. And everything will be a little bit earlier over there as far as that goes. Video content will come. Live streams will come. I don't know exactly when they will happen. I think the first members only live stream post on Locals will be on Saturday, Father's Day, for the giveaway of the Ethereum Classic NFT, ETC MAYC. And be sure to share it out. That's the number one thing. And remember, this is all good news that happened today. Yes, we're in that market, but everything's looking exactly like I've been expecting it to look since 2020. So that means that we can expect it to look really, really good in 2025. That's good news. I'll see you next Tuesday.